watching MSNBC. El Paso, Texas is a city where the humanitarian crisis at the southern border has become a local crisis. Migrant centers are at capacity. Hundreds are added each day, despite already having a wall along much of its border. The White House is doing little to help, leaving local organizations and now taxpayers to shoulder the cost of caring for these migrants. NBC News' Cal Perry spent the week in El Paso, where he visited a church that recently opened its doors to take in asylum seekers from other overcrowded shelters. Cal joins me now with that story. Good evening, Cal.
Good evening, Ali. We're here inside the Caminos de Vida Church, where you can see behind me donations are piling up. Look, in this sector, the El Paso sector, as you mentioned, which has a wall, 25,000 families came across in just the first 4 months of fiscal year 2018, and many of them were left on the side of the road by the federal government after they were released by custody, with no food, with no water, dropped at bus stations with ankle bracelets. And so the local community has stepped up. The donations behind me keep coming, Ali, because so too do the families. The city of El Paso is trying to bend, but not break, under the weight of tens of thousands of migrant families. For this pop-up shelter, Caminos de Vida Church, another day means more migrants fresh from government custody. There is little coordination between these volunteer efforts and the government.
We have to have 50.
That lack of coordination has forced El Paso County to approve spending $20,000 tax dollars on a full-time migrant coordinator.
The federal government used to have a hand in all that coordination, and they've stopped that. If the federal government isn't really concerned with what happens to the migrants after they're being processed and are leaving them in the streets of El Paso, or they're just expecting the nonprofits to pick it up, I mean, what's going to happen if we take no action? Well, you'll see a wall that's in most parts of our county, but yet we're still receiving a record number of migrants.
The county is now waiting on the city and local nonprofit organizations to add funding for what they hope will be a short-term solution. It's also forced community groups and pastors like Israel Cabrera to step up where the government has failed.
If we weren't here, they would probably just be released on the streets.
Why isn't the government handling this?
I don't know.
This is what she came with, no shoelaces, these, and we're gonna throw them away. And they gave her these sparkly pinks, and you should see her face. ¿Cómo te gustan tus zapatos, mi amor? Look at her face.
Monica Cabrera is the social services provider and the center's caretaker for asylum seekers that are dropped off here.
We know that they've been through a lot, and we want to make them so welcome to know that this is a place that they can be safe, that we're going to care for them, we're going to love them.
This shelter opened just 2 weeks ago to help the other overwhelmed nonprofit organizations that care for migrants.
Places that normally shelter them and actually do this, or have been doing this either for years or for months, their facilities are too full. There's no place for them to go. There's too many of them. There is a state of crisis. Inside the shelter, it's about getting people what they need, but it's also about a return to normalcy. His son is not wearing any shoes right now because the shoes got stuck in the mud crossing the river to get over to the immigration to turn himself in, and the child has spent 5 days with no shoes. We're going to give him some shoes right away. Migrants like Cornelio Martinez and his son are grateful after a dangerous journey.
He says that he suffered a lot coming here, but once he got to this place, that he felt overwhelmed with joy.
Volunteers work quickly to help transport migrants to their next destination before the next busload arrives.
Other than giving them food, water, and shelter, the most important thing is to get them to their point of contact and get them along the way. Because we can't house them here more than 3 or 4 days. We just don't have the resources, we don't have the money. If we keep a lot of people here, we're not able to help the next group.
Ali, the issue of immigration is being used to divide America, and around the world, politicians use fear and fear of other people as a way to divide, and we saw how that fear can sometimes turn to violence yesterday in New Zealand. But El Paso remains a beacon of hope and a beacon of unity. You see behind me the people sorting through medical equipment, unified in a way of helping people who've come here to find a better life. Ali, I would submit to you in a way that only Texas can, sort of past a refinery and over the railroad tracks, this old abandoned furniture warehouse and the people behind me represent the best of what America can be.
Cal, thank you for that. Thank you for your great reporting this whole time along the border and on this story. It's an important one. Cal Perry gets tonight's last word.
MSNBC.